Welcome, everyone. My name is David Whitlock. I'm doing this 101 bikepacking. 101 kind of is a little bit of a misnomer, so if you have suggestions or tips or anything else, feel free to throw them out there. I'm not an expert. I've just done this for a few years and figured I would expand my knowledge to other people. So I guess my background a little bit, starting off from the East Coast originally, Virginia, and backpacking was kind of my thing. Hiked a lot, carried a tent around. Rock climbing was a big thing too. Mountain biked when I moved out here. Got into mountain biking, and then one day I discovered that I could combine backpacking and mountain biking, and from there it's been just off to the races. So that's kind of where I am now. Started this about 2017 or so, and I've kind of had a whirlwind experience up until this point. So yeah. So what we have here are my two bikes. So I guess today we'll talk about really two things. One, the bikes, which you kind of need for bikepacking. And two, the gear that you carry on your tiny little homes around wherever you go, which is another thing that's really crucial. So bikepacking is a strange thing. It combines a lot of different disciplines, at least I think so. It's different from touring, whereas touring is more so road. The bikes are generally heavier, carry more gear. Like if you're going to do 101 down to Mexico from here, I would take a touring bike over like one of these just because you could carry a lot more stuff. If you wanted to go just, I don't know, just camp out for a year or something like that, the touring bike may be a better choice. But for these are more off-road bikes. So the Super Caliber is actually a mountain bike that I bought as a frame and converted to a drop bar bike because that's kind of what I prefer. The Cutthroat is a purpose-built race bike for the Tour Divide. It's a 2,700 mile race from Banff, Canada, to Antelope Wells in New Mexico, following the Continental Divide trail that the American Cycling Association has put together. A guy named Jay Pettiberry worked with Salsa and built this bike for that race. The entire race is actually inscribed on the Downtube, like all the major towns that you go through. Used to be anyway. It's kind of been worn off from rock chips and stuff like that. But
I didn't realize that until I was cleaning off my Cutthroat, and then I saw the map underneath it, and I was like, oh wait, that's totally the Tour.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's a fun fact.
Yeah, and I used to have some leading edge helicopter frame protector tape on this whole section right here, and I took it off. And as I was removing it, it actually pulled off the whole top layer of that route. And so there's like chunks of it missing, and I was just distraught. I'm like, oh, because you can't replace it. They don't sell the graphics or anything like that. So, but yeah, so purpose-built bike by Jay to do the Tour Divide. This is kind of how a lot of people will do that race now for bikepacking. Rigid fork, hardtail, but fat tires. In places to put bags and things like that. But it seems to be that the winds are changing for bikepacking, and people are starting to realize that suspension is good. I don't know of any other wheeled sports, really, that you don't have suspension for, minus like unicycles or something like that. And those guys are weird anyway. But, so this is a fully suspended bikepacking bike. So the suspension for the rear here is actually up in the top tube, and the front is an inverted fork. So the bottom actually goes up into the frame as it moves, unlike traditional suspension forks now, which are the opposite. And it's an old race fork from SRAM. And honestly, it was actually on this bike for the longest time until I bought this frame and then ported it over. I just find them terribly comfortable. And that's kind of what this is really about, is comfort. For longer days in the saddle and things like that. That's why these bikes are generally, you sit up higher. The top tubes are generally shorter. The seating position is generally more for comfort. You're not, laid out as much as you would be for like a race bike. Of even what this bike is designed for with a flat bar. You're much more forward the way that it's traditionally supposed to be set up. But like I said, I bought it as a frame, so it was never set up as it was supposed to be. But yeah, mountain bikes, this is the first version of this bike. There's now, I think, V3 or so, where they've moved on from the mountain bike bottom bracket and non-boost rear and front hub spacing to now it's road bike cranksets and boost spacing for less flex in the wheels. So they're kind of evolving, if you will, to more roadish sort of thing, and that's like the whole gravel scene has taken off. So a lot of people use them for gravelly purposes. So the big tires offer some suspension, but a lot of people will put suspension stems on them for a little bit more comfort. As this is like they're double wrapped bars, so with gel liners under them for a bit more comfort, because your hands will go numb after a while. I mean, it gets to be ridiculous after a bit. To counteract that too, these have aero bars, like triathlon aero bars, excuse me, which used to be on here. And these are, I call them oh shit bars, more so because you're not really going for aerodynamics in this setup. I mean, there's nothing aerodynamic about really any of this, but you get weight off your hands, which is crucial. So the drops, different hand position, the hood's different hand position, the inner bar right here is the different hand position. You can, get on your arms right here and unwrap things like, bars and things like that, or do stuff, pick your nose, whatever you have to do. But you generally want to change your hands around a bit just to keep from going numb, which my hands have done many, many times. It's taken quite a while to find a setup to where I could ride for longer distances without losing a finger or two. Yeah.
So you said you like to be more upright now, but you keep the drop bars just as a different place to put your hands in.
Yeah.
You don't really ride for too long like that?
No, I do. I mean, these are actually, they're kind of stacked pretty high to begin with. So even like sitting in the drops here, you're not too terribly low, but I wouldn't grab them for longer distances. Not for these. These I have the whole thing. I mean, there's like 2 inches of spacers under here basically. And so it's really designed to be ridden on the drops. And the hoods are just kind of there for brakes, at least in my perspective. So I'll end up riding a lot more here. And I have these Redshift extensions, so they kind of widen out the hand positions a little bit. And they help with that bit of comfort. These are reversed. They're supposed to be on the inside. But these are non-splayed bars, so they don't have a whole lot of space in between them like these. And so this kind of adds a little bit of width and a little bit more comfort. And they don't hit these bags as much, so it's a little bit easier.
And you double wrap everything just again for comfort?
Yeah, these are double wrapped up top. Single wrapped here, but this is pretty thick tape. These are double wrapped both with, I think, specialized gel strips under them, so they curve in. The big thing I was trying to mitigate this transition right here from the hoods to the bar. You get this hump where I'm a pretty crappy tape person, so I always do one that looks like I'm a professional, and the other one looks like I'm a 3-year-old.
Yes.
So there's always this big hump that I try to fix by putting those gel pads under it to kind of even that out. Because if you sit up here for any length of time, it'll start pressing on this. I think the ulnar nerve is what it's called, median. And yeah, it's game for me at least. It's game over after that. You'll notice my pinkies are curved in. I've got this condition called Dupuytren syndrome, where I get these nodules forming on the tendons of my hands, And so they get really sore after a while. So it's all about kind of mitigating any sort of vibrations or just any sort of discomfort for longer distances for that. So it's been this journey for comfort on just tape and gel strips and triple tape, and I mean I've tried so many different things.
And you wear padded gloves on top of that?
Actually unpadded.
Oh.
We were talking about that beforehand. Like the padding will generally press on the nerves as well.
Oh.
So I buy cheap gloves from Amazon that don't have pads in them, and the best ones I've ever found were trout fishing gloves. They were just super thin SPF 50, I think, material without fingers. And they were just wonderful. And I found them at a Sierra trading post for nothing. And they lasted, actually one cross Washington to like a 700-mile bike race. They lasted to the end and they split apart. And I've never been able to find them again. So it's been like this holy grail hunt for the perfect pair of gloves after that. But yeah. So kind of different bikes. This one is really race specific. So I mean it's bikepacking, but it's a little more focused. I've got this one set up now for more of a touring setup. Like I actually have cages I put up here. You can carry some bags up front, carry some bags in the back. Like these are both 10-liter bags, and then this bag will fit on that bike. And so it's all about space. They're small frames. Not a whole lot of space in the frame bags. I mean, unlike Kelly, who has like, the freakishly large bike that you can put, small African villages in that thing. I mean, it's amazing how much stuff he fits in there. I'm not there. Can't do it. So, yeah, that's kind of the bikes.
I've got a question about the suspension.
Yeah.
So do you think that the pros outweigh the cons for having suspension on a bike like this?
Yes. Absolutely, at least for me. When I first got this bike, I took it to the OAT, the Olympic Adventure Trail, for the first day, rode it 5 miles and turned around. I'm like, I can't do this. It was just like whack, 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 whack. And the weird thing is that this suspension, there's suspension built into the frame here where it actually flexes. So there's supposedly 2 inches of flex, which means that it becomes a lever. So you hit something with the front and then hit it with the back would compress and then it would spring. And it was just kind of like, this would become like a pivot. I would bounce. And so when I put the suspension fork on the front, it just took up all that. I mean, it was night and day. So yeah, that's why I don't really ride that bike off-road that much. It's in its current configuration. The difficult thing though is that suspension forks aren't really meant to carry weight like that. I mean, they make adapters now and stuff, like you can buy them and you can just clamp them on and you can run bags like this or water bottle cages and things. But it puts a lot more stress on the actual fork. So you have to do maintenance on them more often and things. But for the longest time, suspension forks couldn't really keep up. So they wouldn't last a terribly long time. And so that's why the fully rigid bikes were the norm it hasn't been that many years until now with technology's finally kind of caught up. So you can do like a full Tour Divide race on a suspension fork that won't explode when you get to New Mexico or something like that. So a lot of people are doing that. And actually the guy who won the Tour Divide this year was on this bike. The new version, which has more suspension in the rear, and not an inverted fork, but a regular fork.
When you say regular fork, you mean unsprung?
No, regular suspension fork. I'm sorry, the SID. I mean, it was set up as a mountain bike, so flat bars, a SID fork.
Oh, flat bars.
Yeah, flat bars. Yeah, I didn't see a drop bar set up. Oh, I've seen one drop bar set up for a bike like this.
So this is your personal innovation.
Yeah, well, I've seen it once. A guy did that, but it was just to ride it and not to pack with it, or bike pack. I actually contacted him. He was out of Wyoming, I think. And we kind of conversed a little bit back and forth about it. But yeah, this is the only other one like this that I've seen.
So David, are you just more comfortable with flat bars versus, drop bars versus flat bars?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have flat
So
bars
just
on my
personal preference.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have flat bars on my mountain bike, and it feels kind of weird, and my hands just don't like that position much anymore. And
But are you saying that you're a minority amongst the bikepacking community?
well,
Has these drop bars?
kind of yes and no. Bikepacking is very individualistic sort of experience, and so tons of people will ride drop bars on bikes that shouldn't have them and bikes that should have them, and then they'll put flat bars on this bike, which in the beginning shouldn't have had them, and so it's all about what is comfortable for you, and so they'll run like a flat bar on this bike, but they'll put aero bars on it, and then they'll run like bar ends, like little nubs here, and then they'll put bar ends here in the middle, so you can have another place to kind of grab onto, and like they'll wrap them here so you can grab on and stuff. And so, I mean, people try to put as many hand positions on a flat bar as well. So it's all about getting weight off your hands at different times. Yeah, I've seen people who just their hands will just go numb, like kind of semi-permanently. The guy who won Cross Washington bike race a few years ago, Daniel Perry, his, I think, index finger is still numb. It's been like 3 years or so. Yeah, it's all tactile numb. Like you can feel it sort of, but the skin is still numb.
You can see it, but you can't feel it.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, it's one of those, you see a lot of them when they'll finish these races, and then it's hit the forums, like, what do I do? How do I get around this? You know, and it's like suspension, double wrapping. But that's why these little suspension stems, I think you run one, don't you, Kelly?
Yeah.
The suspension stems are kind of a good in-between, because you don't have the weight of a suspension fork and the complexity, but you have a bit of the benefits of suspension.
The suspension stems, are those the one that have a spring in the vertical part, or is it parallel inside?
Those are different. Specialized makes that one. Those are a little bit more complicated, I guess. The suspension stems have elastomers, so you can have them with weight, like so how much you weigh and how much you want to rebound and stuff, and so they kind of go into the stem itself, and like the whole front will move with the bars and
horizontal
everything.
part is a parallelogram with the spring.
I think it's just all elastomers now. Like it used to be a spring, like back in the 90s they had one set up like that, and but now it's just elastomers of different colors, so harder to softer. And I've never tried one. I don't know. People love them.
You'd never go back.
Yeah, I thought about having one
Yeah,
for
we all
this.
have them for our bikes.
Yeah, they make them for seat posts too. They're kind of the same way.
We have those too.
Yeah, and so people try to get around the non-suspension by adding little bits and bobs here and there.
Yeah, there are times where I would say gravel riding, maybe 80% of gravel riding is taken care of with the seat post and stem suspension.
Yeah.
But then I've ridden the oat with it suspended, and I wished I had a full suspension.
Yeah.
It's just like you take it to another level, and it's just like, oh, it still beat me up.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I went with this setup. I thought about it for years, and they're so expensive as a new bike. I had to wait until my price point was achieved by just used. So frame was used, and the original idea was to take everything that was on this bike and stick it on this bike, and that frame was just going to go onto the wall, my wall of fame. But the brake, the rear brake on this bike didn't fit on this bike, and so it just kind of, that was the thread off the sweater. I mean, it was just sort of unraveling, and next thing I know, I'm like taking out a mortgage to buy electronic suspension or electronic shifting and stuff. So I guess the differences between the two bikes, we can go over that a little bit. So this is a very simple bike. This is all analog, if you will, for you youngins. It's analog. Everything's cable actuated. So bar end shifters, which are kind of old school, like triathlon shifters that used to be sitting here on the ends. You can shift. Very, very simple things. It's a 2x setup. So I think it's a 26-36. Made it to an 11 speed with a 9-46 cassette. So a wide range cassette in the back, a pretty wide range gears up here in the front, and it has a great climbing gear, and I think I spin out like at 30, if I can even reach that or something. So you can scoot along pretty well with this. The brakes are hydro-mechanical, so they're kind of hard to see, but they're actually Japanese brakes that are filled with hydraulic fluid and that use Shimano Saint downhill pads. So they're 4-piston brakes, but they're cable actuated. So these old rival shifters, which used to be shifters, just actuate the brakes. So very simple, completely sealed system. You never have to bleed them. There's nothing to leak out. Just change the cable every once in a while, and that's basically it. Very kind of purpose. You can find parts at hardware stores, any little bitty bike shop in any little town sort of thing have brake cables and housing and stuff. So really good for that. Hubs are the same way, very simple, one spring and 2 little cogs and some gear goo in there. But yeah, so that's kind of the setup for that. And for this one, it's kind of hard to see because it's backwards, but this is all electronic shifting. So spin it around. So it's electronic with a mismatch of SRAM road and then SRAM mountain bike parts. And I kind of went with this because I was really hesitant to try to cobble together something that would require adapters, like goat link adapters and other things that would be more complicated or difficult to find, say racing the Tour Divide if they broke. So straight up just a 12-speed drivetrain with a 9-52 cassette, a 1x up front, as all mountain bikes are nowadays. I mean, I don't think they even make a 2x. I think like 2017 or so was the last in my research that I was doing to try to find something like that. So 1x, so I was trying to find the widest range that I could to actually get a climbing gear that would handle the weight of a bikepacking rig versus handling the speed of actually trying to go forward faster than say 10 miles an hour without looking like a circus bear or something on a bike. But electronic shifting, it's wonderful. I mean, I'm thinking about putting it on here if and when it does happen. It's very just click and go. You don't have to worry about it. This is all set up on friction, so you kind of put the derailleur where you need to put it, so it isn't indexed. Like you can set it up indexed, but the cable tends to stretch out rather quickly, and you get that clicking sound, or it'll start go shifting after a little bit. And so I found that this works well, but if you try to do it quickly, like you're hitting a rather steep section, and you try to find the right gear and still stay on the bike. I mean, I found where I'm like in between gears, trying to like pedal and figure out where the thing goes and trying to stay upright, and like it can be a pain sometimes, but yeah, so a 30-tooth up front here, just for climbing. And so this one spins out at about 26 miles an hour or so, and it's plenty fast for me. I'm not very fast, I just don't really stop, so just kind of keep going, which is
That's the key, keep going.
the way it works. What else is?
Do you find that you have to drive your shock pressure up when you're at full weight?
Yep. And what sucks is I always forget that it's set that way when I take all the bags off.
So
So yeah, usually it's 2 clicks for down for rebound to slow it down a little bit. Will kind of make it manageable. But yeah, I have to set like everything has to be set differently with the bags on and with the bags off. But usually I set it for the bags on and just forget it because it's kind of a pain to really set perfectly. And even then, I mean, with a bit like water, like you can add, see, I can carry what, 6-7 liters of water, maybe 8 on this thing. And if I'm carrying 2 all the time and then you add 6 more, that's a lot of weight. And it changes everything dramatically, but I'm not carrying a shock pump with me, so you just have to kind of deal with it.
What do you think about wearing a backpack?
I'm glad you asked that. Here's my backpack. I think it's leaking.
Oh, man.
Useless.
Ugh.
Oh,
Well,
David, what
No. Yeah, I carry a pack. I have to. I don't have the room that is really required to not carry one all the time. I mean, I'd rather not. But, so I have a couple different ones. This is the one I used on the Tour Divide. This is actually like a peak bagger, sort of like trail running backpack. It works really well. I don't normally carry water in it though. So I carry water in the frame bag with a tube that comes out. And I carry an extra bladder in here. And if and when I need more water to carry, I'll fill this up. And I can use this tube and just, suck on it. But generally, the only thing that really goes in here is food. So,
It's basically because you just need more room.
yeah, exactly. If I could carry more, I would on the bike. I mean, that's a friend of mine told me, he's like, as much weight as you can put on the bike, do it, because for long distances, weight on you wears you out. And so I've been trying to follow that, but I mean, there's only so much I can do. But yeah, so I carry food in one of these little odor-proof bags. So I'm trying to keep the chipmunks and raccoons away, and the bears stay away as well. So like all my extra food really goes in there, and extra water, and if I need to really get to something quickly, it'll be here and stuff. And what I generally do a lot of times is actually I ride with this here. The reason I have this little motorcycle strap is that if there's not a whole lot of stuff in here, you can actually put it under the strap and ride with it back there. And especially when it's really hot, I mean, it's amazingly comfortable to take this thing off. And then when it's really, really hot, you can actually fill the bladder in here with ice and ride right that way. I learned that in Mississippi. It's like, you just put it on and it's just like this. It's hard to explain when it's like, 100 degrees with 100% humidity, and you find a way to cool yourself off.
I gotta
very
try
well.
that.
Oh, it's amazing. But yeah, so I'll do that sometimes. But going under this little strap really helps. I mean, you're just sweating to death with it on when it's really hot. But, so that's kind of the bikes. I don't know if you have any other questions.
Maybe I didn't understand this from the beginning, but is your thing then cross-country racing?
Oh, yeah, I guess it is.
I mean, this isn't just a weekend trip then. You're sounds like you're competing.
Well, kind of. More so competing with myself. But the training for bikepack racing is just bikepacking. So it's kind of, I might take a fewer things than other people would when I go out for like a weekend or something, but it's still kind of all the same stuff. I just don't have like an extra jersey or something like that with me, or I don't carry a pair of jeans that I've seen people carry, but depending on the time of year, I'll carry long pants or a long shirt or something. But yeah, it's kind of all the same stuff. But yeah, it kind of is for racing.
Okay.
Which seems to be that I train to race and then I kind of race, but end up being injured from all the training for the racing. And then I go back to training, and it's just like this vicious cycle. So I've been trying to get out of that little rut here.
Vicious cycle.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good name.
Man, that would be a great name for a
That's
bike
my
shop.
bike brand. Oh yeah. We have it on video. It's mine. Okay, I'm gonna copyright that quickly. Yeah, that's a good one. So we can talk about.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can talk about the bags. which is kind of an
Well,
important
yes.
part of
Before you
this.
do that,
Okay.
you want to talk about the tires
Sure,
um,
that's a big one.
and what you do to maybe the insides of them or the wheels? Or
Okay. Well, the wheels are built by Kelly Campo.
get out.
Yeah, best wheels
That
on the
guy over
planet.
there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've only failed me like 8 or 9 times. No, Kelly actually rebuilt these wheels for me. Here in the Northwest, we're blessed with copious amounts of rain, and when you combine aluminum nipples with aluminum spokes, you end up getting a lot of corrosion and they'll break. So Kelly rebuilt all these wheels with brass spokes. So they're very, I guess, future-proof.
Spokes are,
Oh geez, DT Swiss. I think these are the original DT
I
Swiss
mean,
spokes.
what are they made out of?
The spokes are aluminum. The nipples are brass.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Oh, and both bikes actually. So Kelly built these. I bought these rims from Light Bicycle, and DT Swiss. DT Swiss, what? Something?
Comps, probably.
Yeah.
No, there's some fancy thing that he wanted to use. That was like, oh, these are the lightest, the greatest in here. Yeah.
My cut through, you know, I walk around generally 250, 255 pounds. And with my bike fully loaded, the weakest part of my cut throat was the wheels.
Yeah.
I've destroyed both factory wheels and they're gone. So the wheels that I run now are ones that Kelly laced that are
Oh.
also like bicycle rims to Hope hubs.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think the weakest part of the cut throat is the factory wheels.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I'm not sure if I even still have the factory wheels. I bought these. These are actually kind of race wheels, low spoke count. I think 24, both front and rear, which is low for bikepacking because of the weight. But they're completely bomber. I mean, I have a broken rear spoke, 2 rear spokes on that wheel, and that was just because of the way they were built from the factory with the aluminum nipples and stuff. But besides that, I haven't had a single issue with them, and I've put them through the ringer. But that's a really low spoke count. I think these are both 28 or 32 and 28. I think I got them for a little bit more just hardcore riding, just so they don't break. The tires, oh my God. It's like you ask a bike packer what kind of tires they use, and it's like you'll get a conversation about who knows what. Everyone has their own preferences. So this one has Renee Hurst tires that I had them laying around. These are actually, they sponsored the Gravel Gambler.
Yeah.
The
Full
front
around.
wheel
The
around.
series.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
We're big fans right now.
yeah, so these tires are Fleecer Ridge, I believe, at 50 millimeter, so about 2 inches. These were purpose built by a lady named Lyle Wilcox, who's a very famous bike packer, racer. And so she designed these for racing the Tour Divide. They're great tires. I had them, I like a little bit wider of a tire. So 2.21, 2.25. So I took them off from actually riding with them, but I put them back on this for what it's used for now. But the rear, I just put a slick on. I don't really ride this in mud and like heavy rain anymore, so it works. Mezcals for this one. I've been riding Mezcals now for years. I really love that tire.
And
So-
is this are these tubeless?
Mm.
Are these
I'm
tubeless?
sorry, yes, all tubeless. I carry some TPU tubes, some little super light tubes as a backup, but I haven't had to run them for years. But yeah, it's all tubeless with extra, probably 2 ounces of sealant in there. I just squeeze a whole bunch in before. And
I forget the website. Is it bicycle? It's looking at all the tires.
Mhm.
And there's
Rolling
a website
resistance.
that looks at all the efficiency.
Yeah,
rollingresistance.com.
Oh yeah, rollingresistance.com. So it looks at tons of different tires, and they rate them from 0 to 5, with 5 being the least rolling resistance. And then you look at all the, like, if that's a, whatever that one, those are 55 millimeter ones, and I think those are 48.
Yeah, something like that.
And it just looks at research they've done on rolling resistance. So it's pretty interesting. You'll look at that tire, which you might think it, because of its profile, it might be lower rolling resistance. It's a little bit narrower, but it's a 3 or so on their scale, where those mezcals are a 4 or 5, depending on which model you get. So,
Right.
but it looks like it has way more tread, but just the tread design and the rubber
Yeah.
on those are, the rolling resistance really low.
And I guess at the end of the day, I mean, both of these really are just cross-country kind of race tires. So, and
Is rolling resistance a big deal if you're not on pavement?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well-
Still a big deal.
yeah, probably not as big of a deal unless you're on pavement. But for bikepacking, I found that you're on tarmac a lot. I mean, just getting
Yeah.
from between trail systems, or I mean, there's whole areas that you're just riding through towns and areas that you just have to kind of get to a gravel road. But
But that's not the highest percentage of your riding.
No, thankfully not. But yeah, I don't really. That's not really a factor, at least for me, for purchase. I mean, like I said, I mean, I can spin both of these bikes out in their current setups. Like, they'll go faster than I can. So it's like it's what you really prefer. Like I said, I prefer a little bit wider tire. These definitely roll a little bit more easily. The way that they're designed, there's a center tread that basically is almost laced together. So when you're on the road, that's the part that's hitting the road. So it kind of acts like a little bit like a road tire. It's really a hard surface cross-country race tire. It's not really meant for mud or loam or really a whole lot of the stuff that we have around here. But since bikepacking more so is coming from like the road category, like people, or the gravel category or whatever, people consider these like monster cross tires. I mean, they're like, super huge and knobby. I've had, roadies kind of laugh at me. I'm like, this is like the lightest, like, cross-country tire you can buy as far as tread wear is concerned and stuff. And they think they're all huge and knobbied and stuff. That being said, my favorite tire is a Victoria Torino that generally will run as a rear, that has a slick middle, and then it actually has lugged outer edges. I run those a lot, and it's a really fast tire. There isn't a whole lot of resistance, and that website Kelly was talking about rates them actually as a road tire. It gets the same rating as a lot of just slick road tires. So they're super, super fast, but with that comes less traction. So as a front tire, it can wash out in sand or anything that isn't like hard pack. You have to be really careful. As a rear, you can stand up and spin them out on like a root or loam or something. So it's kind of a trade-off. But yeah, these tires, they're kind of my go-to.
So what tire pressure do you typically run?
I think this is set up at 19 front and rear, and that one's probably set up a little bit higher, maybe 22 or something, but not very high.
What's maximum?
Probably 45 or 50 is what they call for. I mean, 22 is actually below what they even rate the tire to, as far as like the fill up. But
So you're running half the
yeah,
specified pressure in the tires?
yeah. But I mean, they don't roll. I mean, you can feel them. They're solid. Like, they're fine.
And most of the new research out shows that lower tire pressure is just as fast as,
Yeah.
or faster than having too much air, or even the specified plus. It's much more comfortable and traction's better.
And the way
They
these
specialized. Go ahead.
the way these rims are set up too, is that the bead is actually locked onto the rim, so it isn't like it's going to come off. I mean, hell, half the time you can't get them off with them.
When you need to.
Yeah, with them aired out and just trying to take them off with your hands, like just rip them off the tire. I've had a couple I've had to cut off, just like take a knife to, because they're not popping off the rim. So they're stuck on there pretty good.
I think Specialized and Silka both have calculators for air pressure in your tires based on the kind of tire it is,
Yeah.
and your weight and the casing and all those different things.
And rim width is a big one. These are 21 and a half, I think, millimeters wide. And these are 29s. And so a wider rim, you can run a little bit lower pressure because it helps make the tire kind of spread out a little bit. But you have to be really careful. It's been a trend to run really wide rims and not really wide tires. And what happens is that it will square off the tire. So if you look at it from the side, a tire is supposed to have like the top of it, and then it kind of rounds out to a rim. And that rounding, the way that it works is it's kind of supposed to protect the sidewall a little bit. It kind of goes under. And when the rim gets too wide, it actually puts the sidewall out. As soon as you're riding, you'll start hitting. And I've had a few that were cut that were not really set up ideally. But so you have to kind of take that into consideration too. I mean, there's a lot of factors, but usually like a cross-country style rim is a little bit more, or a little bit better, I guess, for bikepacking rather than like an enduro rim, which is 35 millimeters wide and meant to have like a 2.9 inch tire or something like that. I mean, they're really big, meaty things, which these are not. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not familiar personally with tubeless tires, but do you do anything to the inside of the tire to protect yourself from thorns and other crap on the?
The tubeless is really all that you need. These tires come with the different casing styles, so like you can get from super light or supple all the way up into an endurance double walled casing. So they make them for people who really want a tire you can't poke a knife through, sort of thing. These kind of come with the same sort of idea. Like I think it's called TNT, where it's like a reinforced casing on the sides. But it's kind of weird whenever I take my tires off, like if I wear them out or I want to change them over. Every time I do it, I'll run my hands through them and I'll find like thorns and pieces of like metal or just something like, things that are not nails really, but I've had them before like that, but things that are just kind of stuck in them that the sealant will patch and I won't even know that they're there. So I think the tire that I took off this before I put this set on, I mean, I ran through some sort of sticker bush and I probably had 15 stickers, like just thorns in there, and I cut my fingers just feeling them, and I never even knew it. The setup I had before this, when I did the Cross Washington, the first time, the bike race, I had a nail on my rear tire and didn't know it, like a full nail.
Wow.
That I broke a spoke and had to have it changed out at a shop in Wenatchee. And only when I took the tire off did I see that there was a full like railroad nail thing stuck through the wheel. And it was that wheel actually. And I probably rode 30 miles on it, and some of it was like screaming downhill with a spoke that was taped to another spoke and like a 3-inch nail stuck in the tire. And they didn't even wobble. There was nothing. They were solid. But yeah, so good wheels, and I mean, if they're solidly built, will get you out of some bad situations. And that's kind of the crucial part. So yeah. Anything else? Questions?
What would you say are your 5 mandatory can't live without things on the bike?
Well, the bike.
Well, sure.
For me,
But, like-
okay, I'm a nerd this way. Bottom bracket.
This way?
So for me, the big thing for bikes are bottom brackets. So that's like the number one thing I can't live without, because I go through them very quickly. I ride a lot in the wintertime, and we're fortunate here to have a very mild winter. So fall through spring is kind of the season that I ride the most, and I kind of taper off to the summer where I don't like all the people and all the heat. So I kind of back off a little bit, but I will go through a bottom bracket in a season. And the only one that I found for this one, well, it's on this bike now, but it's a guy named Habini out of Great Britain. He's an aerospace engineer, and he's an avid cyclist, and he makes his own bottom brackets. And I bought one from him, and it's the only one that has lasted. I've had that thing, it was actually on that bike for years, and I've never even had to do anything to it. And I finally pulled it out and put it in this bike, but the bottom bracket that was in this bike from Enduro, it was very expensive, very purpose-built and everything, lifetime guarantee, lasted like 3 months, I think, before the bearings were starting to get crunchy on the drive side. Had to pull it apart, clean it, put it back together. So that's when I switched it over to here and put the Habini one in there. And that's my number one thing.
That bottom bracket's a very nice bottom bracket.
I mean, it's really nice, but it's all about the seals, like how the bearings are sealed and everything. Number two would be the saddle. You see, they're both the same saddle. Kelly and I both have had our fair share of run-ins with bad saddles. I mean, I think we all have, but
Saddle stories.
yeah, saddle sores. Saddle sores from the trails. I have gone years with different saddles, and I finally found these that, when set up correctly and I'm in somewhat decent shape, are super comfortable for me. But if I'm not,
And what's the brand name of those?
Selly Italias.
Okay.
This is a Novus, NOVUS. It's like their endurance saddle. Full channel, so it kind of alleviates numbness, for me at least. Especially in the drop bars. I mean, if you ever see a triathlon saddle or a TT, time trial saddle, they're like about that big. And they're just little rails for your sit bones, and that's it, because you're so far forward that there's a lot of pressure on your undersides, and numbness will ensue. But these are kind of like the closest thing that I can find to something like that and still be a real saddle. And I like the length, because you can kind of get forward on the saddle when you have to climb, and then you can push back when you don't have to.
So there's a Facebook page for Ride Across Washington race. It's got ongoing people that comment, and all you gotta do is put in looking for a saddle that'll work for long distance, and you will get
You'll get about 150 people responding.
It's like tires. It's the same way.
Like everybody has an opinion. It's like, holy moly.
Yeah. And some people like the pure leather, like old Brooks saddles and things.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of funny when you see like a Cutthroat or like an Evil chamois hanger, or these really, really nice high-end bikes, and then they've got this enormous leather saddle with like springs on it and stuff, and these guys will swear by these saddles. And it's like this weird, like it looks like it should be on some sort of like upright beach cruiser, and you need like a little cap and like a wool jacket on in England. But they swear by them. So usually when you find a saddle that works for you, it's like you just kind of like just covet it, and then they quit making it. So at least that's a story for me.
So you mentioned two things.
Yeah. Well, the third, we can get into like the bags starting now.
And you were going to talk about bags, and then we got distracted on.
Yeah. Well, the third, I mean, it is, but it's the third thing. It's this Tailfin rack. For me, having a small frame, I used to have a bag back here, a seat pack, but it would always hit the tires when I would hit rocks and whatever it was. It would always rub. So these little Tailfin racks are kind of magical because they're so modular. Like, so this one doesn't have the pannier mounts where this one does. So you can put different bags on here. They're all hinged, so it allows for a full suspension frame. So you could put this on a downhill bike if you wanted, and it would fit or you have to buy the correct little axle mounts, but it would work. And yeah, I really like them. it's kind of changed how I ride a lot because I can carry so much more, and it's just very stable. Like with this setup, you can hang the bike from the rack. And for bikepacking, for the longest time, people didn't use panniers or racks at all because they would fall apart. They weren't really designed for the rigors that off-road use has. I mean,
So the regular racks, the welds will,
the welds will fail, bolts will back out, metal will just break in half. I mean, these things I've seen them break. People have posted pictures of these little bars here breaking, the little link bar. But for the most part, I've never had a single issue with them. And they're really engineered for off-road use, whereas a lot of racks are not. But there's like a whole industry now that's popping up dedicated to bikepacking racks. So there's, I don't know how many different brands now, and some will mount to the stays here and just kind of come up. Some will mount like this. Others will just kind of mount however they do. But everyone's trying to get around the problem of being able to carry weight and not have it break really over rough terrain. But the tailfin setup is crucial. And 4 would be this inverted fork. I love this thing. They're hard to find now. I keep saying I'm going to buy another one, and I never do. It's just so overbuilt. It was carbon fiber back in 2013, I think. It was like new, it was like $22,000 or something like that back in the day. So probably like $3,000 today. Super top of the spear race fork, and now used they're really nothing. But they have all the same internals as a SID, but they're actually a little bit heavier. But they're inverted for one thing, but the carbon fiber is just thick. If you take this fork apart, you could use it as a weapon. That stuff is not breaking at all. Downside to it is that the hub is proprietary. So it's actually a different size axle than your normal suspension fork. So like when I did the Tour Divide this year, or tried it, I had a completely new wheel built up in a box that if I broke this wheel, I would not have been able to find another hub. That my wife was going to send me a whole wheel to wherever I was. That was the only way to get around that. It wasn't, you don't find them anymore. So I'm kind of stuck down that avenue until something happens to it and I can't use it anymore. And then 5 are these loan bags. Company in Bellingham. They make bags custom. They make stuff that you can buy off the shelf, but they also make bags that are custom for your bikes by the dimensions that you specify. So
what's the full name of the company?
Loan Equipment.
Okay.
Bellingham. Lady named Rachel. You just send them the pictures of what you have. You have to send them. They're very specific on the pictures that you send them, and you have to have like a ruler and sitting down, and there's a lot of stuff like certain distances away, but they'll design a frame bag for you, which they did for this, and it's kind of what made this whole setup possible is kind of opening up this what is a small area, but you can still carry stuff in it, and they're great. It's not cheap, and they built these to my specifications. So feed bag that's 2 inches, half an inch wider and 2 inches longer. So I can carry a full liter bottle in the bag when necessary. And without it, when it's not carrying water, I can carry just jackets and things. This one carries food. But I got them to put, this is something that has baffled me to this day of why they don't put pockets on the fronts of feed bags. Everyone you see, there's nothing here. I'm like, this is a spot where you can put things. So I had them put pockets up here and then pockets out here that are larger. And so I carry lube and stuff over here, and then these are extra deep to carry whatever they carry. But yeah, I've never understood that. It's like, it's to me, it's a kind of a no-brainer, but I don't know. But I love these bags.
And your knees don't come anywhere near that.
No, fortunately not. The bike is still kind of, far forward enough. Even with I think a 40 millimeter stem is what I'm running on this, just to get the whole front end close enough, because it's designed around a flat bar. Unlike this, which is designed around a drop bar, and this is an 80 millimeter stem. And I mean, they're basically the same size bike, but the top tube on this one is a bit longer. But yeah, these bags are awesome. I really, really like them.
So David, it's probably on your agenda, but I was just thinking about the different types of things that you need to have on your trip and where you actually put them.
Yeah, I was going to go through
Okay, I
that.
figured.
So don't rush me.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, man. It's actually was going to, what? Don't fall. I was going to kind of just unpack this. I thought about packing it. I was going to pack it in front of you guys and show you kind of how everything went together, but it'd be very, very boring. These stuffing bags, but so yeah. I mean, are there any other questions about the gear? Is that your-
I get
Thanks.
this food and drink gear. Or what do you eat and drink while you're out?
water and whatever you can eat? Honestly,
Mini Mart chimichangas.
my latest go-to food have been powdered donuts. Those little donut rounds. Get a sleeve of those things. I mean,
Are your feedback?
Donut holes?
Yeah, that's it. Donut holes. Donut holes are good.
Powdered donut holes. There you go.
But nuts, I eat a lot of like just raw nuts, cashews and almonds. Like I said before, this side actually holds food. Like that's what its sole purpose in life is. So I usually have a plastic bag in there, and it's kind of the weird grab bag that a lot of stuff goes in. But it's generally, like I said, almonds and cashews, peanut M&Ms, and other things that kind of go in there. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that if anything you put in the feed bag has to be readily edible, so you don't put hard candies in there and stuff, which I have done accidentally, like apple hard candies, and you're not thinking, you just put them in your mouth and start chewing, and next thing you know, you're like, ah, and you're like trying to find the tooth that you thought you broke. So yeah. But
So, given that it's bike packing and you spend the night somewhere,
mhm.
you're not carrying cooking equipment and
Yeah.
or,
Well, that people consider that, or some consider that to be the line between bike packing and bike pack racing, really, is if you don't carry a stove. And I like to consider myself touring with intent is my little window into this. So a lot of times I will actually carry a stove while I'm sort of racing. So I've got these little setups here. I brought two of them as examples of kind of what I carry.
not that you carry two.
No, not at
You're
all.
just showing.
Usually I carry one and it goes right here.
Oh,
And I put them in a little bag so it doesn't get completely covered in stuff. But yeah, they'll sit there, and I have an adapter little setup to where it'll fit here. It just straps to the frame. But so this would be a cook kit, like a typical like spring or summer cook kit. So it's this little Vargo pot that you can carry water in. So it actually is a water container, so you can put it in there and like it doesn't leak. So there's that, and then it's an alcohol stove. So I've got this little setup where, I'll just do it here. So this little bit is really light, but it still will heat water very well. But it's this little kit like this. And this is either Everclear or heat, like the yellow heat for pulling water out of gasoline you find in grocery stores or convenience stores. That stuff, you can find it anywhere, which is really nice because this is about 4 burns of water. So usually the liter there, you can almost boil 4 of those before you're out of this. And so you generally have to replace it if you're going to burn a lot of stuff for, if you're out in like the wintertime and it's cold and you want to just drink hot water a lot. That would be, you just kind of need to replace it without having to carry a whole lot of it. So, and the Everclear is nice because if you add like a Noon tablet to it and dilute it with water, it's a nice little cocktail. And I have done this before. Once I was up at Snoqualmie Pass and I was just kind of drinking my little cocktail and playing solitaire at one of the campsites up near Hyack, and 2 ladies from Seattle came up and were camping near me, and they were sitting at the other end of the picnic table. And so I'm sitting there and I was listening to them talk, and I started to realize that I was kind of drunk. I mean, drinking the Everclear, I mean, it was just like, whoa. I was trying to talk to them, and they were kind of looking at me, and I'm like, wow, 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 wow. I was kind of wandered off and slept in my tent, but so you got to be careful with that
Which
stuff.
flavor of Noon did you use?
I think it was lime.
Okay.
I think it was Heather had a bunch of lime stuff, and I brought it with me. But if you water it down enough, it doesn't quite burn
Maybe
as much.
counteract that with the Noon with caffeine.
Yeah, yeah. So this is kind of the wintertime setup. So the big pot, generally this will hold my repair kit as well. So I'll show you that here in a second. But
So the cans are totally separate item that you managed to fit all these other things into.
Yeah. So these are bikepacking or backpacking things from Wisconsin, I guess.
From where?
Wisconsin, I think. Vargo is the company, and Bot is the brand. So these are just the bots, but they screw on, and they're watertight. So a lot of times I'll put a dehydrated meal in here and add water midway through a ride, and then just stick it back on the bike. And when you get to wherever you're going to camp, it's already rehydrated.
Yes.
And then you just add a little heat to it, and it's ready. You don't have to really boil the water or anything. But so in the wintertime, when it's cold and you want to heat up something quickly, I mean butane and one of these little, I think they're BKS. Can't read the writing anymore. These little stoves on Amazon are like $15, and they're just tiny. And so one of these, and it's just a little jet engine, and I carry kind of heavier weight aluminum foil, and I use that as a windscreen because it's too tall for this, and the foil you can stretch it out and fold it over on itself, and its second purpose is you can wrap like hamburgers up in it if you need. Like you buy a hamburger somewhere, like a real hamburger, not McDonald's, and you don't want it to leak all over everything. You can wrap it up in foil and throw it in your pack. And so if it comes down to that, I can do that. And then a spork, yield spork.
Old sport.
Yeah, so this little thing works well, but my new favorite little thing has been this guy. Hold it to here. It's a good segue to get into the bags too. But I got one of these, just fork, spoon, big long one. So you can reach down into, like if you have a pre-made meal, like Mountain House meal or something, you can get into the bottom. But also, I've gotten into carrying like jars of peanut butter or peanut butter and jelly and bagels and stuff like that. And you can get in there to where you're actually like kind of covered in peanut butter after a while, which, you're not exactly, bear-proofing things when you're covering yourself in peanut butter. But yeah, I mean, plus this is a good fork and a good spoon, where this is kind of a okay spoon and a shitty fork. And what sucks is with a setup like this, you can tear through bags trying to get down into them, which kind of sucks when it's in your lap and you pop a hole in it and you discover that you're leaking out hot, like, I don't know, Thai chili food or something like that into your lap. So bag is open. Now we can start the real stuff. What's in here? Tent. Everyone needs a tent. Or not everyone, but I do. I'm a tent person, not a bivvy, not a hammock. Tent. So this is a little single wall tent made for mountaineering. It's a ledge tent, so it's a little triangle. And it's made for people like me. So the correct height is...
Obviously.
Obviously. But no, it's a really
So the
small...
floor plan is a triangle?
Yeah, it's a triangle, and it's made for 2 people, probably 5'8", maybe most, you'll be touching the ends. But it's kind of meant for mountaineering. Like, you're not supposed to be happy and comfortable, you're supposed to be alive, sort of thing. And so I use it, this is like my 3rd one. I've had them for years. But it's a black diamond First Light, and it's very simple. Like I said, a single wall tent that gets kind of hammered around here in the
We
wintertime.
have a pole in the middle?
No, it has 2 poles that cross inside. So the poles will cross in an X pattern from end to end. So they're just above you, but they're internal. And for this, so bikepacking requires specialty items. And one are specialty poles. So they need to be short to fit in, like, say, frame bags and into things like this. Like the poles that came with this, they're probably like maybe this long folded up, and they don't fit really in anything. So I made these, I bought a carbon fiber pole stock from a company called Quest Online, and they just measured all the pieces that I needed and just bought them and built them kind of how I wanted them to be. And so they fit.
You cut them and you...
Yeah. So you just got a hacksaw, and you can just cut them and file them down. So you just kind of take the burrs off of them, and you can buy the shot cord and just string them together like beads or something. It's very simple, but you can make them the length that you need. Which for me, it was the length that was to fit into here, which they do. But now they fit into the bottom. There's a little frame that's built into the bottom of this bag, and it raises up a little bit. And so there's a space in the middle of it. And these just kind of flatten out and fit like right in the middle. So it becomes like a little floor in the bag. But this tent is, like, it's a 4-season tent. So like if it's snowing, snow doesn't blow in like it would if there was mesh and stuff around it. But more importantly, sand doesn't get in. It doesn't blow in. Like if you're camping on the east side where it's windy and sandy, it just doesn't come into the mesh like the super, super fine stuff. So that's kind of nice. I hate waking up covered in grit. This actually gets quite a bit smaller. I was just lazy when I packed it up. It's probably like probably a quarter smaller when it's really packed.
Do you pack a rain fly too, or?
No, it's waterproof to a degree. Since it's single wall, it's meant to expire your
Perspiration.
Precipitation?
Oh.
Perspiration.
Perspiration. It's meant to travel.
Keyword, I tried.
The fabric is called Epic, and it's meant to just vent the water vapor. But the problem is that since it's an alpine tent, it's made for altitude, where it's much drier, much colder. So down here in the lowlands, you'll get condensation inside of it. Usually I'll carry a towel and just wipe away the insides from time to time when it gets really wet. You just don't touch the walls, and usually it's just me in there, so I'm kind of like laying in the middle, so I can kind of get away with it.
No venting?
Yeah, I mean, it has a vent in the back and then a full door at the end. It has 2 doors really. One is a full solid door made of the same fabric, and then the other one is a mesh door. So you can fully just open up the whole end of it, and it breathes pretty well, but the shape of it allows water to fall in when it isn't fully closed up. So you have to kind of weigh how wet you want to get versus how dry you want to stay, sort of thing.
You can get wet from the outside or the inside?
Yeah, Yeah, or both. That's fun. It has a little eyebrow thing over the door that kind of protects the first maybe foot of the opening. That water will collect, and like you can unzip it, and it'll sometimes pop down and just dump water like right onto your feet or your sleeping bag or whatever it is. And it's like you tried so hard to stay dry, and then at the 11th hour you're soaking wet. Sleeping pad. Kelly's favorite thing. Kelly loves sleeping pads.
It's his nemesis.
Loves sleeping pads. Yeah, this is a new one for me. I actually got it for the Tour Divide. It is a Thermarest Neo Air something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's the big one.
Are these his nemesis because they always
I've
fail?
had so many that have holes in them, and I don't know, I use them twice and there's holes, and I don't know where the hole, I try to find the holes and patch them, and I can't find them, and they still leak out, and
He has pokey hips. That's the technical term. Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, this one's new for me because the pad I still have it. I have a Sea to Summit women's XT Etherlight something, where they make pads for people who are correct height. So I think they're like 66 inches long, but they're wider, like 23 inches wide, 22 inches wide. So I'm a side sleeper, so I can roll around without kind of falling off of the pad with those. But there was a design flaw in them, to where so they have these little dimples built into the whole pad, and at the bottom of the dimple they're kind of welded together, like the plastic's welded, and it was always failing. So I had 30 patches on it or something. I mean, it got to the point where I was just patching, like preventive patching. And I sent them a picture of it, and they agreed to send me a new one. And in the meantime, I bought
Did they
this.
send you patches along with it?
No. They sent me a new one. It was like, oh, you're one of those. I mean, there was no questions asked. But I was looking at it, and this was for the Tour Divide race. And I'm like, do I trust it? I don't trust this thing to stay, to actually last. So I went and bought this, and this is lighter and it packs a little bit smaller, and I really like it. It's just big. But
and we have a mutual friend, Mark Shorn, who does a lot of bikepacking, and this is the one he settled on after all of the ones he's tried. He says this is his favorite.
yeah, and the regular one I think is 21 inches wide, but the way that they're built, the baffling is horizontal on the pad. So if you're a side sleeper like me, if you get to the kind of the edge with your hip, the whole thing kind of collapses, and you feel like
I
you're
mean,
going
the
to fall.
baffling is across the short.
Yeah. So
short,
yeah, a lot of them will be long
rectangle.
ways,
Yeah.
but if it's across the width of the pad, it feels like you're going to fall off, and you have dreams of like falling on cliffs and stuff. And it would wake me up all the time, and so I returned it and bought this one, which is I think 25 inches wide, and it's almost the length of my tent. Like to inflate it, it's just like this thing. I mean, and it's insulated too.
And no
which is
bad
nice.
dreams.
No, but so this number 6 of things I can't live without. I was turned on to this by Troy Hopewood, the guy who created the Cross Washington route. It's a little pump, and it's a little inflator for air mattresses.
Any air mattress.
Yeah, well, it comes with adapters, so all these kind of fit onto different ends. So whichever one it fits, like I have this for my Sea to Summit, and for this, but it's a little air pump, and you just plug it on the end, push the button, and it just does its thing.
Rechargeable?
How many inflations do you get out of it?
20,
Oh,
25.
Nice.
Yeah, you get a lot. It doesn't take a whole lot to inflate. Normally they all come with bags. So bags you blow into and roll and push down and stuff. And I find that in the wintertime especially, you just plug this little thing in, and then you blow up your pillow and fart around camper for like maybe a minute, probably less. And it just inflates, and it makes a different sound when it's full. And you just unplug it and you're done. And
Who makes that thing?
Flextail, I think, is
Is
the
that
one.
something you could find at REI?
I don't think REI, but Amazon
Amazon.
has them.
Flex.
And yeah, and it's I mean, I like gadgets and stuff, but a lot of times I don't. Like, I'm pretty simple, and I was just so against this. I mean, actually, if you go back, like when Troy, he posted this on YouTube about a review of this thing, and there's arguments we had in the comment section, just back and forth between Thomas Sumner, myself, and Troy, and maybe a few others. It was like, rah, rah, rah. And finally I'm like, fine, I just ordered one. They're not terribly expensive. And I was like, I just apologized. I'm like, I'm so sorry. This thing rocks. It's so good. So I learned my lesson.
You ID Crow.
Yeah, and I did very well. I was like, okay, you win. I was wrong. So yeah, a little pump. It's a great little thing. Never thought it would be. Ah, the big one. Water filter. Yes, this is the thing. I've had Giardia before, so I've gotten sick from drinking bad water, but in Hawaii, not on a bike. But still, not something I want to experience again. And I have the small ones, like the little Sawyer squeezes and things that you use. You fill up a bag and squeeze it through. And I found that I was like getting covered with the water that I didn't want to drink, because you got to dunk the bag in, and then if you don't screw it on correctly, it's squirting out to the sides and stuff. And so I'm like, I'm covered in the water I don't want to drink. So I did some research and found this little MSR Hyperlight. So the smallest pump I could find that actually works well. And I love this little thing. I mean, I really do. This little blue hose right here actually fits onto the end of this nozzle, and then it clips into your bladder, and then you just fill your bladder straight up with this thing from a stream. So you just drop it in. I've actually used this like above streams before. Like I'm standing there and there's a stream and a culvert, and you just drop it in and squeeze it. And like in the middle of winter, you don't really want to wade around in water, and just it will fill a bladder in 45 seconds maybe. I mean, if that. And you can screw on like just normal water bottles, like little plastic bottles. If you have those, they screw right on this end. It has an adapter cap that I use on one of these bottles that it fits right onto the end of here. So when I'm filling these up, I'll just pop this on, fill it up, and then when it's full, just switch them over.
So how does it actually pump?
Oh, just water comes in here, you just pull it back.
Oh, that's what I was
Yeah,
asking,
just
is how it actually...
And it's really, really fast, that's the thing. I mean, it's a good pump.
So how often do you need to clean something that small?
Well, it depends on the water, really. I haven't had to clean it too often. I mean, I haven't used like glacial streams or anything, or mud puddles. So generally the water's been clean, but it's field serviceable. So you basically just take it apart and reverse this little piece right here, and then you just clean or have clean water like in this, and it'll pump it back through the other way, and it'll push everything out. So it's very easy to fix if it does clog up. And
This is a MSR
Hyperlight.
Hyperlight.
Yeah, and my wife, who is liked it so much, she bought one, and you can edit that out. So, like, we both have little Sawyer squeezes, and she'll take one if for running or hiking or something like that. But for backpacking or bikepacking or something, she bought one of these, just because we both found that if you have faster access to water, you tend to drink more. If it's a pain in the ass, I was finding that I wouldn't drink enough, just because I didn't want to go through the process of actually getting water. And for this, I can fill this bottle up in just, 20 seconds. Just pump, pump, pump. And after that, you're good. And it just lines back up and tucks away. I mean, it's larger than bringing tablets, which a lot of people do.
It's very small.
Yeah, it's on the large side for the Sawyer Squeeze or something, but it's on the small side for a good pump. And this is another bag by Loam. They actually built this, or made this for me for this pot. So it was originally supposed to be like this in here, and then it goes right here. And I found that I didn't take it on the Tour Divide, this pot or anything, so I just stuck the water filter in there. And it worked. The thing about a bag down here is that it just gets hammered with mud, rocks, whatever, and I just chew through bags. Like I'll have bags like this, and it'll just like eat through them pretty quickly. And so I had them build that thing, which is reinforced. So it works, but I didn't use it for the purpose that I bought it for. So generally I carry water in here. I'm a water in the frame kind of guy, but for this I just stuffed everything that I would normally carry like in my pack or something in here. So electronics, your favorite.
Yeah.
That's what you love. So, I mean, we can't really get away from it nowadays. I mean, I make maps. I'm a cartographer by trade, so I love paper maps. I mean, it's kind of my jam, and I really don't bring them on long trips anymore. I just have my bike computer and my phone. I mean, I'll maybe bring one just as something to look at in the evening, but as far as like really using them for navigation, I don't much anymore. But you need electronics, you need ways to charge electronics and stuff like that. So you're always a little bag, like a little battery. So a way to charge the battery and cables and all that stuff. Can't really get away from it. The way I run this setup is I carry two of these little 10,000 milliamp batteries. And one of them stays in my pack, and the other one actually fits right here. Like the reason this bag was made on this side was for this battery. And it drops in just like right here. And I've got this little splitter. So it plugs into here. So
And David does his own electronics.
sort of. I used to until I found out that people can actually do them better than me.
Okay.
But when if I can't find what I want, I'll try to put it together. But then I run, four different wires from the bag into this little bag up here. And that's because I carry an iPhone, which I've got an old one requiring the lightning port. So I can charge a phone, I can charge like my Garmin with the USB-C. I can charge my headlamp battery, just kind of on the go. I mean, if you're if you're touring and you can stop, plug things in while you're sitting there or something, you don't really need all this stuff, but generally you need to like recharge the batteries. And so wherever you find a plug, grocery stores or convenience stores, you're kind of there until it's full. And so what I like to do is I just try to charge the batteries solely, and then everything else I charge while on the bike or out and about. And I try to just kind of keep it simple, and it works pretty well. I've got an extra battery in here for my shifter.
So I don't see anything that resembles solar or anything.
No, generally for
I mean,
solar.
have you even delved into that?
No.
Tried it?
Well, around here, I mean, besides the summertime, you really don't get a whole lot of solar ability as much. On the east side, maybe, but especially for like a battery of like that size, it was just like forever to trickle charge it. And these batteries, you can't really find them anymore, but they charge in about 20 minutes.
You mean the backup?
Well, yeah, just the battery itself charges in about 20 minutes. Normally they take about 4 hours, So if you have the proper, if you have the proper wall plug, the wattage, I mean, I can like eat a sub and charge both the batteries, and then just kind of go. That was one of the things I learned the first time I did the Cross Washington. Was sitting in a little bitty town at a gas station, trying to charge up 2 batteries that were dead, and realizing that I was going to be there for most of the day. So I went and found these little Apollo batteries as part of a Kickstarter campaign. And the pandemic hit, and then they went out of business, and then their whole business model changed, and they finally shipped them out, and then they were bought up by another company, and they're no longer made. So
The ones that you have there.
yeah. So
Oh dear.
My plants.
Get 'em. Get 'em.
look at that little tail wagging. It's all happy. It's like yum yum.
Then we'll discuss venison recipes for the Vargo.
Yeah, these little batteries. They make other ones. I've got some that are like 2 hours or something.
But those aren't made in the
Not that I found, no. I have 3 of them now. I bought an extra one.
So how many cycles left
Well,
do you have on those?
I don't know. They're graphene batteries, so they have, I mean, thousands of cycles on them.
Oh.
I mean, many more than just your typical like lithium batteries. So yeah, I think these will kind of last me indefinitely. But they recharge so fast. I mean, they're kind of big for 10,000 milliamp now. Like you can get them like just little credit card things, but most of those require the wall plugs to actually have all the major circuitry for the charging, where this is actually built into the bank itself. So it manages itself very well, and so I carry a little charger somewhere. I may have taken it out. No, I have it. This is another thing I kind of obsess about, are wall chargers. They don't make this one anymore either. This is a 60-watt wall charger with a single USB-C plug on it. And it fits into like basically anywhere. If you're like at a bakery or something and they have a power strip and they have like an extra plug that's open, it just fits right in there, unlike like large ones which maybe won't fit. So it's really small, and it'll do this one in 22 minutes, I think. And I have a 100-watt that's a little bit larger that does it in 20. So you're not really losing much, because at the end, the last 10% is the longest. So they try not to fill them up so quickly at the end, just to save the lithium that's in there. But yeah, good little charger. Electronics are kind of the key nowadays. So good cables, good chargers, and good batteries are so crucial to bikepacking. I mean, I wish that it wasn't that way. I mean, you're going to have to be converted one of these days. Yeah, but it is.
You travel without any electronics.
Yeah, I don't even have a computer.
He's a Luddite.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've seen so many people, they'll come in with like little 5-watt chargers and some like off-brand Amazon cable that is the same sort of rating, and then they'll try to charge like a high wattage Garmin that will take, like 40 amps or something, or 40 watts. And they're kind of confused why it's going to take them 8 hours to charge it up. It's like you're just kind of not really using anything that's good, but you just have to be kind of selective about like where you buy your cables and stuff, and kind of know what they're rated for or rated to. I think it's kind of crucial. And what really sucks about cables especially is most of them don't tell you the ratings. I mean, you really can't guess by their size. I've seen super thick ones that are really nothing, and then kind of expensive thinner ones that will do 120 watts. So sometimes I'll label them, but they generally fall off. So. Aha! Number 7 of things I love. We're almost over. Almost over. It's another electronic pump. I wish I could combine those two, or this little pump and this pump, but this
is another air pump?
This is an air pump for tires.
Oh, for tires.
It's loud, but it will fill up one of these tires and actually seat it on the rim in really no time.
But those,
Yep.
yeah, no,
No, but the reason I bought this was this bike. I ripped the sidewall up near the pebble mine near Quilcene. Got a piece of glass that actually went through the top and out the sidewall and just flat. And I was kind of like trying to skip a section of trail, and I hopped on 101. And as I was leaving the gravel road, I ran over some glass thing or another and had a flat tire, like, I don't know, 20 yards down 101 above where you turn off to go to Port Townsend in the rain, just miserable. And the sealant wasn't filling it or anything like that. And I tried my little hand pump, and it just is like, no. So
at this point, you had put, I mean, these are tubeless, so that's why I had the question mark on my face about using that.
yeah, I mean, you can fill tubes as well.
With that.
Yeah, I mean,
So you had taken the tire off and had put a tube in there?
no, okay, I have to admit, I called my wife, and she came and picked me up. So the wife Uber was there. And so, okay, I was confused.
So that pump did really come into
No,
play in that
let me step back one. The reason I bought this was not that time. That time it was just a sidewall tear, and my little hand pump wouldn't work on the tire, and I didn't feel like putting a tube in the rain, and the wife came and picked me up. Another time over at Port Gamble, I ripped a sidewall on a rock and tried to repair it and couldn't. Like, I got it to a point where I put a tube in, and when you put a tube into these tires, you still have to seat the bead onto the rim, and if not, the tire's locked.
Because they're tubeless.
Right.
It's the bead is very important.
Right, and so I put a tube in and had a little Lazine hand pump. I was trying to pump it up, trying. And like my wrist was starting to get sore, because before that I was trying to air up the tire with some more sealant to just fix the hole, and nothing was working. And then the tube got to a point where it was fitting onto the rim, but it wouldn't pop the bead, so half the tire was kind of off. And riding, you could just feel it. It was wonky. So I had to go to a gas station and use their air compressor and seat the bead, and then realized that my air pump, the little hand pump, wasn't really good enough.
Just wasn't strong enough.
Right. So this thing actually weighs exactly the same amount as my hand pump, like identical, and it will seat a bead, or it will seat one of these tires like in under a minute. And it's rechargeable, and I've put this little piece of aluminum here because I've had it cut on before accidentally. So you're riding and you hear this whirr, like your whole bike's starting to whir and stuff, and you're like, oh, damn it. And you got to dig it out from wherever it is.
Thought your electronic shifter had gone nuts?
Yeah, something. So like this little thing really works well. You just got to keep it out of the rain, which is why I have this. So it's kind of an unnecessary gadget to a point, but when you need it, it's really necessary.
Well, it sounds like it, for somebody like me who still runs tubes, that it would be worthwhile.
Yeah, could be. I mean, those are the 2 times I've actually had sidewall tears on a bike, or I've needed a pump, and I can't remember the last time that I've actually had that situation happen. And it was within, I don't know, like 2 weeks of each other or something. And And both times the little hand pump I had, that was always a backup, it just failed. And I was like, well, okay, I mean, I don't use this very often, but when I need it, I need it. And so that lends to this, since it's rechargeable, it can discharge too. So you have to kind of be mindful about keeping the charge decent. I mean, it'll last a couple months and still air up a tire, but you'll definitely have to recharge it. And it's pretty quick, so you can go through, like you can like discharge the whole battery and like say fill up this tire, but you couldn't fill up that tire. And you'd wait 10 minutes or so on a battery, and then you could fill it up again. So yeah, it's another little gadget, but it really comes in handy when it does. Repair kit, heart and soul of it. Oh my God, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. This is full of just stuff, but it's just tubes and needles and threads and bits and bolts and bobs and just things to fix things. And it's over the years, I've just kind of collected stuff that I've needed. But very crucial and very specific to your bike. So derailleur hanger that fits your frame or fits your bike. The extra nipples, extra spokes. I actually have extra spokes in here taped inside of this frame. But ways to fix tent poles when they break, which I've done. Broken tent poles. Just way to fix like rips. Like I tore all my rain gear when I was in a crash a month or two ago. Like ripped the arms and stuff off on one and leg on another. I had to go to Starbucks, lay everything out on the table there, and like dry everything off, and it was like fixing it while the little ladies drinking lattes were watching me. But you just have to, like, just for this sort of thing, you're generally kind of off the grid a little bit. So whatever the problem is you have to fix it. Whether it's a cable that breaks or, I don't know, like I've had, all this stuff or your bar tape come off. Like it gets too hot out or something, and the tape can degrade, and you're sitting there and it just starts to kind of unwind. Bring more tape the whole thing back up. Just stuff. Sleeping bag. This is a 30-degree sleeping bag. That's also a quilt, but it's a sleeping bag. I ran quilts for years, so hammock quilts, the top quilts, were my go-to for the longest time. And found in the wintertime especially that they're quite cold because they don't, so sleeping bags are rated with an insulated pad under you. So for thermarest, I think it's like a 5.9 R value pad, which is, above a 3-season pad. And that's what will keep you to the sort of rating of that bag at that temperature. Keep you at least from dying, keep you warm. For top quilts, it's not quite that way because they're rated with a bottom quilt as well. So for a hammock, it's a little bit different of a setup, but the quilts are smaller, they pack down nicely, and they're plenty warm until you're like me and you're an energetic sleeper. You like toss and turn and you move and you pick up the side of the quilt and it plops down and you got to warm that air up again. And you just kind of keep repeating that, and eventually the air wins and you're cold. So I found this Thermarest Ohm 32-degree sleeping bag that they no longer make from a place in Florida, new old stock. And what it is that it's a headless sleeping bag, so it isn't a mummy. So it's 72 inches, so it's for tall people. But for someone like me, I can actually cover myself up for the most part in it. But it unzips completely, like all the way around, and it lays flat. So it becomes a quilt, and you can, like 2 people can sleep under it if necessary. But it weighs an ounce more than my 32-degree hammock quilt. And I mean, it packs down just as small, maybe just a little bit larger, but not much. But it's so much warmer. I mean, it is really night and day, the temperature range between the two bags. And I've got a light and equipment 32-degree bag with a 2-ounce overstuff, and this is just regular. And with the 2-ounce overstuff top quilt, I would sleep in like insulated puffy pants, my insulated jacket, and generally like a balaclava, and then on top of my like R3.6 pad, and then the top quilt, and I would be warm for the temperature rating that it was. But like without that, I would be cold. And for this thing, I'm like sleeping in shorts at the same temperature. I mean, it was like, I don't know, I can't really explain it. It's a nice little bag. They make them now in 0 degree, I think, is the only one. Like you can get them at REI, but they're very expensive. And that's a little low for this area, at least for me. Rain gear, important stuff. So I'm kind of an organizational person. So for me, rain gear goes on the right, warm gear goes to the left. And that's kind of how you know where things are. Because, I mean, when it's raining, the last thing you want to do is really start digging. Like, what's here, what's there. So, I mean, not that if you don't bike in the rain, you don't have to worry about it. But waterproof socks, little over mittens. Like backpacking pants. And that's Montana mud right there. So for these, I just have some Velcro pieces that fit around the legs. Just keeps them from catching on the bottoms. And I mean, these are wind pants too. I mean, I use them all the time. But what I like about them is I got them as full zips, full side zips. So you don't have to take your shoes off, or I mean, you can basically take them, cut them in half, and just step into them and just zip them back down. Or you can vent them, like I ride a lot like this. And when you're riding, they'll balloon out. So it's like 90s Fresh Prince of Bel-Air sort of thing. It's just, and the insides are white, so you're kind of like flashing around. But they vent very well. And yeah, they're not purpose-built cycling pants. You know, they're not tapered. The knees aren't articulated and all this other stuff, but they also didn't cost $250. So, raincoat. There's another one. So, I don't know if you guys ride a lot in the wintertime, in the rain.
Try not to.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But, I mean, you kind of cook. Like if you wear too much stuff, you'll overheat and just kind of sweat from the inside out. If you wear too little stuff, you'll go hypothermic really. So you have to find stuff that will breathe but keep you warm. So these little shake dry jackets that they no longer make, of course, I find really work. Yeah. So I like these things a lot.
You're showing us a lot of stuff we can't get.
Yeah, it's all for sale for a price. You can still get these. I think they're pushing out all their last
Look
stuff.
on eBay though.
Yeah, they're there. I buy everything large. So this is, I think, a large size. It's built to fit over like a puffy jacket at camp or something. So
Fits over?
yeah. So puffy goes under just to keep it dry.
Yeah.
And it's kind of baggy without that, but it works really well. It packs down really small. And this is a running jacket, so it's not for cycling. So it's not like the long tail in the back, but it has a really nice hood that fits just snugly under your helmet. There's a debate between over the helmet versus under the helmet, and whatever one you are.
Where are you on the debate, David?
Well, I have under the helmet,
Okay.
and so that's what I use. So hoods, when you ride, fill with air. I don't know, like if you're wearing them without the hood up, they'll just kind of like become this little parachute behind you. And over the helmet hoods are large. I mean, they're made to fit over your helmet with you wearing it. So you can get this just big puffy thing like battering around behind you like a big balloon.
It helps slow you down if you're going down a steep.
Yeah, I don't need any more help being slow. So under the helmet, like they're smaller, and I generally tuck it into the back of my jacket. But it's what I have. I've tried the over the helmet ones, like I bought those jackets and returned them. They're just kind of, I don't know, just big, but people love them. Some people just love the fact you can just kind of just slip over. Last but not least, on one side, I mean, so the thing about bikepacking is if you stop riding, you're going to do a couple things. One is you're going to get cold. So if you got short days, you're going to stand around, and if you stand around, you got to stay warm somehow. So you have to bring clothes to stay warm while not biking. So cheap REI gloves, they're warm. I can wear them when I bike too. They're very nice, keep your hands warm. Snowboarding balaclava, I like this a lot. So you can wear it as a balaclava, or you can just wear it as a buff. It has little holes you can breathe through it, so it doesn't fog up your glasses as quickly. So wintertime, of course, not really summertime apparel. There's a buff. This is kind of this little thing I recently discovered. Sanche Designs, little Polar Tech shirt, pullover, if you will. Essentially, material is the inside of a jacket, of an insulated jacket that they just didn't put the insulation on. So it's terribly warm for what it is. I mean, it's not windproof at all, but it's for its weight, it is extremely warm, and I really like it. They're made in Oregon, which also I like. And puffy jacket, which is kind of the bedrock of a bikepacking kit. I mean, year-round, spring, summer, fall. Like anytime, I'll always bring one of these things. And yeah, this is Enlightened Equipment, like the quilt making company. They also make these. So it's really light, and it's really warm for what it is. And you just throw it on when you're like getting, filtering water or stopping for lunch. Or
So this is only when you're not riding.
no, you can ride with it too. I mean, if need be, like everything in case. That's just me though. But yeah, this is nice. The only bad thing about this is that if your hands are sweaty or something, the material is really grabby. So you'll get stuck in it. So I've been stuck like this before. Just kind of like hands can't push through the sleeves. Once I was at, what is that? Not the Longhouse over in Blinn. It was like 10 o'clock at night. It's covered in mud. I was in the little, what is that? The restaurant area that they have. The manager was eyeballing me as they do all the weird looking people there at night. And I was trying to put this jacket on, and I actually got stuck in it. I was just like this, and I was kind of like jumping around. And she was like, wondering if she's going to have to kick me out or not. And I finally just kind of like unfurled it and threw it like onto the thing. I'm like, what? And she didn't kick me out. She was nice.
You had cash.
Yeah, I did. So we ended up talking for a while, and she liked me. But that's it. It's empty now. Yeah, one more. I like jackets. For me, like a few smaller jackets are worth more than one big jacket. And so this little company out of California called Or Not make this little jacket that is surprisingly waterproof without taped seams, so it'll leak. But it's waterproof and it's warm, it's kind of windproof. And
Is this more about like a wind shirt?
Kinda, but like I said, I mean, this is actually waterproof material, so water just beads off of it. It fits into its own little pocket back here, and I wear it like a jersey for the most part. Like I'll wear a jersey under it, but I'll wear this almost all the time. After that, it's got these little triangles built into the front for warmth. I mean, it's sort of warm, but
So
not.
you ride, or you ride with that on, and you wear it in camp as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely breathable. So this is actually one of my favorite jackets of late. I kind of have a collection, if you will, of jackets. But I mean, this kind of setup right here is if I had to like just have one setup to take, like on the Tour Divide, where there's a huge range of temperatures and ecosystems and whatever, it'd be a setup like this, to where there's a lot of versatility to it. Because this is warm but not too hot, whereas this is warm but not too hot. Put the two together, they're warmer and not too hot. But add this to it, and suddenly you're much warmer. But it's just, layering of jackets, and not necessarily pants as much, but just upper body stuff. It's a great little jacket though. And 4 o'clock, I guess this is supposed to last 2 hours. I've been droning for a while, so I'll apologize.
Well, there's a lot to go through.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's nooks and crannies, that's the thing.
Who makes the big bag on the back?
The big bag on the back.
Tailfin.
This one, the Tailfin, I'm sorry. So Tailfin make this bag, and these bags. Restrap makes this one, and what's kind of funny is they're all from Great Britain. So the British have just as crappy weather as we do. So the Hambini bottom bracket, Great Britain. So the stuff that they make is usually for weather like ours. So I found that the stuff that works for them works for me particularly well. So lots of DHL Express stuff and paying air freight and having stuff stopped at the
David,
border.
what are you normally putting on the front? Like, what are you normally strapping onto your very front? Is that your tent or your sleeping bag or?
Oh, the sleeping bag always goes here.
Sleeping
I mean,
bag.
where I pull things from is actually where they live.
Mhm.
So, I mean, the way I had everything packed is the way everything is packed. And I put it together out of habit. Like I was just stuffing stuff in there, but that's where it all goes. So you try to keep the front end light, but with this setup, it kind of negates that a little bit. These bags are kind of heavy. The water, when full, are kind of heavy. Put stuff in here. And so it slows down the steering a little bit, but I can't put too much back here because the rear end will start to wobble. Did I explain the death wobble?
Which?
No, I guess not. Yeah, that was a fun one. That was another rabbit hole that Kelly and I chased because I thought it was his wheel building. I blamed Kelly for this for quite some time. So I found that when I have this bag full and say the 5-liter panniers back here, above like 17 miles an hour or so, the rear end would start to sway. And that would translate to the front. So if you're riding along, you didn't really notice it until you did something like this. And then the front end would start to do this, and it would just start wobbling. And the faster you're going, the faster it would start wobbling. And it was like, I mean, you're grabbing onto this thing. And a lot of times I would be here, and I would be like my balaclava, like pulling up the face mask because it would be cold or something like that. And the front end of this thing would just go crazy. And it's the death wobble. And I was convinced that it was Kelly's wheel. It was out of true. I mean, I felt so badly for him. It's like, it's not centered. It's not this. I mean, these things are probably the truest wheels on the planet. and never fixed it. And then I realized that it was just the extra weight with the
It's
full
just how
suspension
you
setup.
loaded the bike.
Yeah, and so it was the extra weight, and I think it was being outboard as well. It would just start this undulation at certain speeds, and it would just get worse and worse and worse.
And it was having those
It was these on the back,
on the back.
yeah, and I could run them without the bag on the back, and it would be okay. But adding the bag would make it just overweight or something. I don't know. There's physics involved that are above my pay grade. But that's why I ran, or I put these up here. So these come off, and these are actually held on with pipe clamps and 65-pound tape. So the double-sided tape you buy at the hardware store is behind these little brackets that come with these bags. And these are made to be mounted, like say, onto the water bottle bosses on this bike. I mean, like that's the ultimate setup, and that's why they created them. But I, in my ultimate wisdom, decided I could do better with pipe clamps and double-sided tape. And
And the tape is just to protect your frame.
no, the tape's actually, I think, stronger than the pipe clamps. Like I've actually had this whole setup without the clamps, like full bags and water riding, and they didn't come off. I mean, it was scary. I was waiting for something to twist off into the wheel, but it was a short distance. The pipe clamps are really just to kind of keep it all together. And it holds both the water bottle cages and the bracket onto the fork leg. So, I don't know, but yeah, that tape is, I mean, I can barely get these things off just trying to pry them off. Like sometimes I have to use a really large screwdriver and just kind of like leverage them a bit just to pry them up. They're not going anywhere.
So David, do you have more, when you're all packed up, do you have more weight in the front or the back?
Well, with me on the bike,
Uh-huh.
it's in the back.
Okay.
I mean, I think I have, I guess the ratio, the golden ratio is like 40-60 or something like that. 60 rear, 40 front if you're going to pack a
But
front.
most of that weight in the back is you.
Yeah, I mean, besides my tent and a few other bits and bobs, it's all just me. So I kind of counteract that a little bit. I don't really like running a whole lot of weight up here when you can feel it pretty quickly, but I'm kind of forced to. Like with this bike, I can run everything in the back and there's no problem whatsoever. With this, there is a problem, but I'm not a big pannier guy, like in the rear anyway. I end up
You're
pushing.
the right size pannier guy.
No. For these things anyway, like for bikepacking, I end up pushing a lot. I mean, there's a hike-a-bike sort of thing, and you end up hitting these while you're pushing when it gets steep. So I end up like just kind of hitting them with my legs a lot and stuff, and going around like concrete.
These things are in
Yeah.
the way when you're pushing the bike.
Yeah, when I'm pushing or going around concrete barriers that say block gravel or roads, like gravel roads and stuff. If you pull the bike up on its rear wheel, these will catch a lot of times on things, and I've actually got them hung before, and so I'm on like the side of the road with this thing kind of leaning back, and I've got M&Ms falling out of this bag, and this thing's like caught on like a barricade, and this side right here is like caught on a branch, and I'm just like just trying to stand upright, and the bike is heavy, and so I'm not a huge fan of this setup for like bikepacking, like trails and things like that. But if we're going, my wife and I are going to Vancouver Island next month for a week, and it's like kind of like double track roads and things like that. And this is the setup I'm taking. It's going to be this, not that.
Just because you got fewer barriers and
Yeah,
wider trails.
Yeah, it's kind of a known trail system, and it's, but yeah, this is just, I can carry more stuff. So it's shorter days, so just pack a bunch of stuff and play cards and, I don't know, just throw frisbees and things like that, which really can't fit on that bike. It's
Heather gets to carry the frisbees and the cards.
Yeah, she could. Yeah, her setup, she's on a little Pivot Mach 4. So it's a little, I mean, she's about 5'1", so it's a small, extra small mountain bike. But she has the same Tailfin setup, and she has the adapter pieces for a shock on the front, so she runs little bags on the front, and then she actually runs bags on the back. Edit that out too. But she can carry a lot of stuff on a very small bike without a frame bag. I mean, you can fit a water bottle in her triangle, but that's about it. So it's really kind of, well, what you want to bring versus what you have to like strap it all together. So you can do electronics, but I mean that's kind of a bike, computer, and lights. I mean, I don't know if you guys ride a lot at night.
I don't.
Yeah, Ben
Try
does.
not to.
Yeah, most people do.
Carter does, and Simon do, yeah.
So
They're urbanites though, you know.
yeah, so yeah, lights are kind of important if you need them, but I mean for the most part you can get away with it. This time of year with so much daylight, I generally run out of legs before I run out of lights, so I don't really have to worry about it that much. For these bikepacking races, it's so funny. They're generally in the longer daylight hours of the year, but up until that point, I'll obsess about lights and like backup lights and how to charge them and all this stuff, and then never use any of it. It's like it becomes like the most obsessed about blinky light that you can imagine. It's like they blink and that's it. I never really use them for riding that much at night, but during the wintertime, I mean, you need light for like 8 hours, I mean, depending on where you're going. And I've had them fail before, which is not fun. So you have to be kind of careful about the lights that you bring and how waterproof they are and how fast they can charge and all that good stuff. So yeah, so this one is it's actually an urban light made by a company out of Switzerland called Bookman. So it's just a little.
I like the mount. It's
Yeah.
not just stuck in one spot.
Well, no, this is.
Oh, you're just playing with it, but can you aim it?
Yeah, that's kind of why it's set up like this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is made by me from 3 different mounts, kind of all cobbled together. And
A Whitlock original.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So this little mount, little light fits here. I guess in this. Boop. And then you can pop it back up.
Okay.
But yeah, you can like turn it up and down via this little knob.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, really like this
That's
light.
kind of cool.
Yeah, this is a good little light. I'm really impressed by it. But it's an urban light, so it has these side indicators that are supposed to be like to be seen from the side, like
Ah.
commuting and stuff. And that's what I've wrapped it in electrical tape to cut those off. Because, well, at night, everything is bright. I mean, so everything. So you have to like kind of figure out how to turn down all the lights that you have. Like the light on this InReach, the brightness value is 0. So whatever, and the value for this, I think it's like 10% at night. And
Just
even
because you're
that's
trying to
kinda
save electricity?
bright. No, I'm trying to save my eyes.
Oh, okay.
Like, and even the recharge, if I recharge this as I ride, the indicator lights here are super bright. And so I wrapped it with plumber's tape, and it mutes them so much that they're just like little amber lights at that point. And you'd be surprised about how bright lights appear when there's no other lights around you.
Yeah.
It's more like glare.
Kinda, yeah, but it's like right in your face, like
Yeah.
just right there. So yeah, you just have to kind of
Okay.
figure that out. But there's so many lights that even I have that have indicators about how much charge is left, or have digital displays, or do things when you plug them in, and you have to figure out a way to kind of either mitigate or mute that completely. So yeah. Oh, here's a fun one. Then we can be done. I like talking about this stuff. Tire plugs. You know, they're kind of necessary for tubeless tires. And these little stands, plugs, very useful, very good for filling gaps in your tire, like if you cut them or something like that. And I discovered that with a little sanding, they actually fit into the end of my aero bar here, very tightly, and it's readily accessible, and you don't have to worry about where it is. So if you cut a tire, you can just pop it off and plug it quickly. So anyway, that was just me being a nerd one day, and having some sandpaper and a Dremel or something like that, and making things kind of fit where they shouldn't fit.
There's a couple of nerd things on it, like your light on-off switch does not come with a little.
Oh, yeah. So for the light switch on this thing is flat, and you can't really feel it with gloves at all to turn it on or off. So I have a drawer, like a drawer stopper, those little rubber stoppers you glue in the inside of drawers. I super glued one to the top of this thing, so you can feel it, and it works really well. I like it a lot.
That's a similar problem to EV cars that have tactile buttons.
Oh, the haptic feedback buttons and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
haptic, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't always make them work.
Yeah.
Especially.
I've heard people complain about that, where they'll complain about the haptic feedback being
Yeah.
too haptic, and then when manufacturers remove it, you don't know if you've pressed the button or not until whatever happens.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a, you can't please everyone sort of thing. So yeah, I've got a last little bit of electronics stuff. I've got these little blips on here, so you can change gears as you're sitting here on these little aero bars, kind of not having to reach down and do things. And then I put another set right here for climbing bars, or for climbing. So I kind of
So
So
sit
you have them in all the spots that your hands would be.
Yeah,
So electronic shifting, how many remote Bluetooth connections can you have?
Ooh, I don't know.
From
I don't know. I've never heard that you can have a set number.
I mean, yeah, so you have.
You talk about
You have the
locations.
shifters, and he has two other places that you shift from.
Yeah.
He's lost track, there's so many.
No, well, these are these are non-serviceable. I mean, it's kind of bad. So you can't change the batteries. So once they're done, you just throw them away. Yeah, I'm actually going to see if I can get into them. But when I did the Tour Divide this year, or sections of it, I replaced the old ones with new ones, but the old ones still worked. And so I just took them and stuck them right here. Just, I'm like, I'll just use them until they die, and they're still working. And they're only supposed to last about a year, and they're, a year and 9 months now, with some pretty heavy use. And I found that I sit here a lot more than I used to. Like even riding on flat ground and stuff, I'll just kind of sit here, and if I have to change gears, just kind of zone out. But I don't know, like I never expected them to be as useful as they were. I just was like, I might as well do something with them. They're just sitting on the shelf. So it kind of worked out. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I mean, there's always like, oh, this one thing, or oh, this one thing. There's always so much stuff with these bikes, but that's kind of the gist of it as Bikepacking 101 goes. I think we kind of ventured into the 102 or maybe 103 territory, but.
Well, thank you, David.
Oh yeah.
When you're bikepacking, do you change your diet a lot? I mean, I have personally found that the older I get, the more cramping I encounter.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of a problem for me to figure out how or what to eat.
Salt pills.
Salt pills?
I cramp a lot. I don't know if it's just my genetics or what, but
Well, that's what I wonder about myself.
I've gone through many different types of of electrolyte pills and things. And these goo Roctane horse pills, as I like to say, are the best ones that I've ever found as far as alleviating and preventing cramps.
So you take those before you start
If I think I'm gonna,
for a day?
yeah, I mean, well, it depends. Like I carry them with me, and if I can kind of start to tell when like I'm gonna start to cramp. Like there's like a muscle in the back of my shoulder that will start to kind of tense up a little bit, and I'll just pop a couple of these, and it'll generally fix it, and it'll keep me from cramping up. Like my legs will cramp up badly, and my ribs will start to cramp, like everything. Like I'll lose electrolytes so quickly sometimes. I'm even drinking water and eating like, whatever sodium-filled fried food I found at a convenience store.
Yeah.
Generally isn't enough.
Yeah.
Others pills that I've had have been too much. So you kind of get that weird crusty feeling around your lips and stuff, and I take half the dosage that you're supposed to with these. Like I'll just take one at a time to see how they go. But yeah, these have been game changers for that.
I've even had people suggest regular French's mustard, the stuff in mustard.
Yeah.
What was that race that we were just doing with?
The last gravel race we did last weekend or weekend before.
Oh yeah, the Wenatchee gravel race, which is part of the gravel and route.
One of the stations had
Mustard packets.
Oh, really?
Isn't that hilarious?
Like mustard and pickle juice and just like vinegary and high sodium foods. Like I've heard.
Pickle juice is very popular.
Yeah, I just can't.
It's a go-to.
Oh
For
well,
some.
when we do our races, everyone loves pickle juice.
Oh,
For biking and running and you name it, it's
Yeah.
all about the pickle juice.
did not.
It's vinegar and salt and dill, really. So yeah, I've heard. I mean, doctors, like very knowledgeable people in hydration, really say that you can get enough sodium from your diet as you exercise, and I've found that not to be the case for me, at least.
Yeah, well, like I was telling you, it seems like the older I get, the worse the problem becomes.
Yeah.
So I've just got to take more stuff like
Yeah.
you're taking there to alleviate that.
Yeah. And even then, if I'm really, really pushing it, I can still cramp up, like just not take enough. I mean, I've cramped up so much that I can't really hold shifters. Like hands are just like
Well, plus you
palsy sort of looking
got
things.
the Dupotrons on
Yeah,
top
yeah.
of that.
And unclipping from the pedals, which is fun. You're riding and you're just like click, your thigh spasms or something. Click out.
You want
Oh, I
click.
hate that.
Yeah, just like fuck, trying to get it back in, and the other one's clipping out. And
Have you thought about just going to a regular pedal?
I have some, but no, not a flat pedal kind of guy. Like I had them on my Bronson when I was taking classes on like jumps and drops and things like that, and they required flat pedals. And even then, I put them on the bike, and I swear to God, I've never been that afraid of riding a bicycle. Like just, you kind of get used to being stuck to the bike, and I was, wow, like I'd jump something, and I swear to God, I'd go like a foot higher than the bike sometimes. We were just like flying around, not really good at keeping the weight in my feet, which it taught me to do, but I lost that.
It's one thing for them to tell you, another thing to do it.
And I got good at it for a while, and then my wife actually took my flat pedals and she uses them on her bike. And I've gone back and forth a little bit, and I have lost all that ability to keep the weight in my feet. And now if I jump off like a little, like 1 foot log thing, and my foot would fly up on a flat pedal, or trying drops or something like that.
Yeah.
But they're comfortable. I mean, just wearing regular shoes and like having something around camp like that. I mean, that can be really helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Sure. Hopefully it wasn't too boring.
Yeah,
Whatever.
good stuff.
Yeah. I just got this big mess.
Yeah.
See, this is what my I've got a part of my garage that is a little workshop for bikes and stuff, and this is kind of what it looks like. I just kind of transferred it to here, so I think I want to leave this stuff. And, I'll be back for it in a bit. But yeah, oh, here's another one. Our last little bit of funness. I used to do a lot of sea kayaking. I mean, that was kind of my thing for a long time. And I found that lighters, when stored, a lot of times they would get pressed like a Bic lighter. You'd go to use it and it would have just completely ran out of fuel, just being pressed up against something, or salt water or whatever would just rust them completely shut. So I've got this little plasma lighter that's rechargeable. But you can basically weld with this little thing. I mean, it is super, I mean, I just love this little lighter.